Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. I had something really exciting happen this week that I wanted to share with you. And I've never before been able to root a Florida dogwood, that'd be Cornus, Florida. But this time I actually got one to root. So I wanted to share that with you and tell you a little bit about what I did and how it was successful and just show you some of that success. Now this is it right here in this little container. This is just a reused yogurt container. I've got some holes popped into the bottom of this little container, and I've got 3 cuttings that I took from a dogwood tree about 8 weeks or so ago. Now these cuttings here, only one of them rooted of the 3, and I'll go ahead and pull this one out because it is completely dead. You can see there that it's just not going to work, so we'll just go on and take that out. This other one still has some potential, but is probably not going to work out. I'm going to just gently pull it out of here so you can see there's no real roots on that at all right there. I'll set him aside and I'll probably stick that back in this container to try to get it to root a little bit longer. But this is the one that actually was successful. I'll just gently take it out. And you can see there, I don't have a huge amount of roots, but I've got the start of one right here. Before our summer season got too far along, I wanted to take some more dogwoods and wanted to share this with you in case you wanted to go ahead and get some started. Because we do actually have a successful root right here. So I'm not quite ready to pot this up yet. I think I need a little bit more roots on this one here, but we're going to go ahead and take some new cuttings from the same tree and try to get some more to root. And we'll do it exactly the same way as I did this a few weeks ago so that you can follow along and do it on your own. Now first, let's go ahead and talk about what I used in this. I did use rooting hormone. I know a lot of people don't like to use rooting hormone on things, but I think this really helped. I've rooted red twig dogwoods before. They are so easy to root, but I've always had trouble with the Florida dogwoods, the Cornus, Florida. I've used rooting hormone on them and they just have not succeeded. So it's probably a timing thing, and I think summertime cuttings of greenwood is the best type of material you can take. But also with the rooting hormone, I upgraded from this, which is, kind of the standard stuff I use for most perennials. This is just garden safe take root rooting hormone. It uses indole 3 butyric acid at 0.1%. And then I upgraded to hormone 3 for some of those more difficult to root things. And its indole 3 butyric acid, if I can talk right, is actually 0.8%. So it's got quite a bit more of that active ingredient here. That is the synthetic rooting hormone that these are going to use. And so I used that on these cuttings, and it really seemed to help actually trigger that rooting a lot better than what this stuff used to do, or usually does. Now, this is good. If you can get this at your local stores and stuff, and it's good for a lot of things, but for harder to root plants, you probably need to upgrade the indole 3 butyric acid to a higher percentage. And what I typically do is I'll stick it in another jar when I'm rooting it so that I'm not contaminating this big jar. So this is what I actually have in here, is the hormone 3 in this particular jar. So when you see this, just know that it's this stuff over here. So let's go ahead and let's go take some cuttings of the tree and stick them into this container here, which is another yogurt cup container that's been cleaned out. It's got holes in the bottom, and I've got a mixture of sand and core in here. That's like my favorite mix right now. I found for years sand was great, but this seems to be even better. It keeps the moisture in there longer and just helps the roots to root better, I think, when you mix the 2 ingredients together. It's well drained and it retains moisture. That's exactly what you want for rooting your cuttings. So here's our dogwood tree. This is a white dogwood tree. It's one I planted in the fall of last year, which is ideally the best time to plant most of your trees. On this particular tree, yesterday I gave it a really good dose of water, made sure it had plenty of moisture in it, and I'm taking the cuttings in the morning. It's already pretty hot at this time of day. We're probably in the 80s at the moment, and it's just going to get up to about 93 today, so I don't want to wait and take this any later in the day. Typically your best time to take cuttings of anything is going to be early in the morning, as early as you can, and if you can, do it when it's nice and shady so you're not losing any kind of moisture out of the cuttings. In order to minimize the moisture loss, I'm going to use this jar of water here to just stick the cuttings into until I can go ahead and get them treated and put into their medium. Now the type of cuttings I took for the last ones were these greenwood cuttings, and I took 3-node cuttings. And of course what a node is the union of where the leaves come, and that's where the leaves can come out, that's where roots will come out as well. And you want to take the cutting just underneath that and peel off any excess leaves here. And in fact, I'm only going to leave one leaf up at the top for my cutting, right like that. And so that's what we're going to have, and that'll be what I'll do for each of these cuttings on this tree. Now, this is a spot where I actually took a cutting from before, I believe, so I'm trying to leave branches that are going to give it a nice open canopy. So this one's moving outward from the plant. I'm going to leave that one alone. And I might have taken this one if it were a little bit bigger, but it doesn't have enough here, I think, to actually take it, because here would be my third node. And that's just a kind of a short cutting. So I want to get something that's about like this. This is probably 4.5 to 5 inches long, and it's got 3 nodes on it, and I cut just below that node. Here's another great one for cutting. It's got several nodes on it. In fact, I probably can get 4 nodes off of this. I'll go ahead and trim it off at the trunk of the tree, get rid of the excess that's under the node there, because we don't need that, and then strip the leaves off real carefully. And sometimes when you get to the end of them, in order to not risk damaging it, you want to just go ahead and clip them up at the top rather than pull them off. But on this one, we've got a 4-node cutting, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we left one small little leaf up here. If you saw in the previous section there where I was showing you the cutting, it actually didn't have any leaves on it. I started with leaves, they kind of fell off, but it's still rooted over time. That's because there's still chlorophyll and stuff for it to get energy in the stems. Right here's another really good looking cutting. I've got probably 4 nodes on this one too, so I'll go ahead and cut this back to the stem, remove a lot of this big section here that doesn't stop at a node, get these leaves off of it, and again, trim those like that, and cut off one of those leaves. We have 1, 2, it's actually just 3 nodes on this one, but we've got a 3-node cutting that's about 4 inches long. Got a small leaf here at the top. And again, it's okay if that leaf disappears at some point and we're just getting some roots down there, that'll be just fine. It'll regrow those leaves once it has enough energy. So in this jar, I've got 4 cuttings of this dogwood tree. I did not want to take too many of them because I want to make sure I leave plenty of good branches for it to continue to produce foliage and other branches on. So I only ended up with 4. So I think from this one here, those 4 could potentially end up being maybe 2. I would love it if all 4 rooted, but I would be happy if just half of them did. That would be great, because that's really 2 more trees than I had before. All right, so these cuttings are soaking in the water right there, and I put that other cutting that didn't make it. You can see a color difference between the 2, which probably means this is not going to make it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get some more rooting hormone on this one and stick it back in with the other cuttings. So let's go ahead and start, and what I'll do, I'm just going to take this and dip it into the rooting hormone, swirl it around as good as I can, get a good layer of it on, just like that, dab off anything or knock off anything that was excess on it. And then I'm going to take this is one of my kids' little paint brushes, and I'm just going to use the end of it like a dibber and slide that in there. I don't always do that with plants, but on some of these that are a little bit more finicky, I'm going to give that a shot. And what that does is it prevents the rooting hormone from immediately getting knocked off of the plant. The truth is, I think there's going to be enough rooting hormone on that and in the container itself to still encourage rooting without too much difficulty there, or at least as far as getting the rooting hormone knocked off of it. So I'll go ahead and do these others exactly the same way, and we should easily be able to get 4 of them in this container. So some other important things, I went ahead and I moistened this prior to doing this. So it is already wet and ready to go. All right, and I'm just going to stick these in. And I'll try to keep the leaves facing outward for the most part. And inside the little cups, all I'm doing is I'm trying to press around the base of them to allow the rooting medium to make good contact with the plant itself. Now, if you want to try to increase your odds on it, you can do wounding, which is where you scrape a little bit of the cambium layer off at the base of the cutting, and that will increase the area that could potentially callus. And callus is when the plant is trying to heal and starts to produce cells in that area, which can really increase your chances of rooting. So the more callusing you get, the better those tend to root at the bottom. So that could help it. I didn't do that on any of these. We'll just see how they do with that. And last, I'm going to re-stick this one in my original medium with the other cutting that did root, and hopefully we'll get some more roots off of that one, and maybe we'll make it 2 out of 3 that rooted instead of just 1 out of 3. And so here we go. We've got our 4 little dogwood cuttings all ready to start the rooting process. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these and put them under some grow lights, and the reason I'm doing that is because I don't have an area set up outdoors under shade cloth or anything like that yet. That's hopefully something I'll implement eventually. But for now, they need to be kept out of direct, harsh sunlight. So a place underneath a tree. I used to keep them under a nice Japanese maple tree that got very little direct sunlight. Keep them out of the sun because that will just bake them. If you are keeping them outside, I recommend giving them a mist anytime that you're out there watering your plants, especially through the heat of the summer, because we get a lot of really intense heat this time of year, and they will transpire all their moisture out of those leaves. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that moisture inside the plant where it will do the most good. So I'm Dave with Growing the Home Garden. Hopefully this was interesting and helpful to you. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here for more plant propagation stuff.